Hello, how's it going? Welcome everyone. My name is Keith. I am your meditation teacher here on Meditation Breaks. That's this channel, and on this channel, you might have guessed we focus on learning meditation, but there's a lot of different styles and ways you can go about meditating, and so I like to think of this channel as kind of like a meditation cookbook, right? And each week we're going to do we're going to do a recipe. I'm not really a big cook. I don't know why I'm using this analogy, but we're going to use a recipe, and some of you are going to be like, "Oh, that's the one for me," and other people will be like, "Eh." And then maybe next week, like, "Oh, that really connects with me," right? So I think this is really an important way to approach meditation because we're all different learners, and so if you've been coming here a while, you probably have a lot of different tools in the tool belt, and that's good. That's what we're after here, right? So if you are brand new and you're like, recipe, I need the basics, right? Hey there. And don't worry. Every week, even though we're very topic oriented here in terms of we're focusing on a meditation topic, etc. Hey, Alex, what's up, man? We always start with the basics. So if you're brand new, you've never meditated before, never tried it, perfect, right? You're in a good spot. So we will start with that. An introduction. What is meditation? What does that word mean? Why, how does it work? Why does it work? How do we do it? All that stuff. And then we'll do a little short meditation together. And after that, it'll be very short, like 5 minutes, just to kind of get everyone like, oh, that's how you do it. And then we're going to talk about our topic for today, and I'll go into what that is a little later on. Cool? So last thing I'll say before we kind of kick off here is if you do have any questions, I do encourage you to ask them if you want to. Meditation is, like what I was saying earlier, everyone gravitates to like different things. I might use an analogy that like, and then maybe you ask me and I use another one, you're like, oh. So if you have a question or want to share an experience or anything at any time, you can feel free to do so by using the chat feature. If you do not want to use that feature or you think of something after the class is over, you can always email me. I will be giving out my email towards the end of the session. So I'm always available if you have any questions about meditation or anything else, whatever. Okay, so we're going to get started. And just like every week, we're going to get started with the pinnacle question of what is this thing? What is this meditation thing, right? And when we say the word meditate, when we say any word, right? If I say bicycle, right? Like your mind thinks of something, all right? It's so fast and like, it's just like we don't even realize it, but our mind is like conjuring this, what I'll call like a generic image of a bicycle, like, right? And so that's how we can like kind of picture it in our mind. So when I say the word meditation, even though you may have never meditated, I know what you're thinking. I know what that generic image is, and that is somebody sitting on the floor, and man, do they have good posture, which is something I don't really possess. They're sitting on the floor, they're maybe like this. They always look so relaxed, and we're like, that looks great. I'd like to do that. I'd like to be relaxed. So our generic image of meditation is generally just that, sitting on the floor or cushion or something with our eyes closed. Hands, whatever. This is a way to meditate, but it is not the definition of meditation. It's not like if you aren't sitting down on the floor, then it's not meditation. That's not how this works. So a more, I think, apt definition, and this really ties in nicely to our topic for today, because we're going to talk about like more non-traditional ways that you can use meditation in your day. a definition that I think is pretty good is meditation is a technique for training your mind to become familiar with something. And you're probably like, nah, I don't think that's good, Keith. I don't know what that means. When we think about this phrase, training your mind to do something, it sounds weird because we don't speak like that. Like we don't ever say those things. But if we think about like training maybe our body to do something like weightlifting, hey Lucia, or maybe you're running, right? Or even something as like, early on in your human life, walking, right? When you were a wee lad or lass, or those two, I don't know, you did not know how to walk. And there's probably some videos or something of you back in the day trying. And when you started to get it, it wasn't so graceful, right? You're like wobbling, you're stumbling. It's like a little bit like that, and then we like flash forward to today, however old you are now, and it's like, man, you don't have to think about walking at all. You just do it. In fact, we can like walk, and I was gonna say chew gum because that's a phrase, but that like we can do all sorts of stuff while we walk. Hey, Beatrice, and there is such like a huge gap in between us like not knowing anything about this and really struggling, and then now where it's like second nature to us. So what happened? Did we like read a book on walking? No. We became familiar with it through repetition, right? So this idea of familiarity is really important in meditation and really every aspect of our life, because it's the core way that we learn through repetition, and then our mind, our body become familiar with how to go about doing this thing. And the result, the kind of like output of this, is that thing, be it an activity or whatever, or walking or whatnot, it becomes like second nature, right? We don't have to put as much energy into thinking about the mechanics of doing it. Driving a car is another good example. We just kind of do it, right? Now, we can all kind of like get behind that idea for like physical learning and physical familiarity, but mental familiarity actually works the exact same way. So for things like being really calm, which is, pretty much the number one reason people get into meditation, is to like, be a little bit more calm and more peaceful. So is meditation doing that for you? Actually not. Meditation is not just like, saying, oh, relaxation, come over here. Right? What you're doing is, this is a technique to become really familiar with what I'll call relaxed you, which is the version of you that is relaxed. And we all have that. If we are honest with ourselves, there's been plenty of times it's showed up. We would like it to show up more often. That's why we're here, maybe. But it's not something we have to go get. It already exists, right? We have the ability to be calm. What we need to do is just practice kind of identifying with that version of ourselves, so that way our mind kind of gets into the groove of like, oh, this is kind of like, my default. So that's our goal with meditation, and this idea of familiarity and how it plays an important part in our life. It works both ways, good and bad, right? So, we want to be more peaceful. How about becoming familiar with getting rid of a bad habit? Great question, right? Let's first talk about bad habits, right? So let's think about something like anger, right? Anger, we do not have to try to get angry, right? Something happens and we're annoyed. It's like instantaneous. But patience, we got to try for that one, and that's not because we're angry inherently. It's because our mind has, on the grand scale, probably got, had more annoyance in trying situations than patience in trying situations. And so that's what our mind gravitates to. So a huge takeaway here is our mind does what our mind is familiar with. Now, Lucia, great question. How about becoming familiar with getting rid of a bad habit? So like this idea of familiarity and bad habits goes hand in hand, right? I have a yeah, it's something that I tell you guys stuff about me that's like, well, you guys know more about me than some of my close friends, maybe. You guys are my close friends. So I have a bad habit of biting the inside of my cheek. Right? I go like this. If you ever see me do weird like face stuff, I do. It's like a nervous habit or something, It's a really not great habit. And I can't even remember when I started doing it, right? Because now it feels so second nature to me, right? But I was not born biting the insides of my cheek. It is a learned behavior, right? And the first time I did it wasn't like, oh, that's what I'll do anytime I'm nervous, It just built up over repetition, right? So this idea of like a bad habit is purely a learned behavior that has been built up through familiarity, through repetition, right? So, and Lucia, you really nailed it here on your follow-up comment, because when we're talking about something like a bad habit, we feel like, oh, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm not doing that anymore. But it's so familiar to us that it can be really difficult, right? And so sometimes instead of trying to get rid of our bad habit outright, we like start a good habit. And we become so familiar with that the bad ones start to fade away a little bit, right? So this kind of balance of familiarity, right, for good and for bad, for better or worse, is really what we're after here, right? And that all sounds well and good, but like, how do we do it? How do we use meditation to do this? We're going to learn how to, and at least initially here, we're going to learn how to do, I guess I would call it pretty much the first thing everyone learns with meditation. It's breathing meditation. And breathing meditation is just focusing on your breath. So meditation is more formally known as single-pointed concentration. And that means not multitasking, which we are quite good at and familiar with. We're not the best at focusing on one thing. Like even when we think we are, our mind's jumping around, right? Like I was like fidgeting with something while I was just saying that. So like I'm multitasking there. What time does the meditation start in today's session? We're going to start meditating in about 5 minutes, maybe less. I'll talk really fast, 2x speed. So single point of concentration is what meditation is. All that means is focusing single pointedly on something. For breathing meditation, that something is our breath. So we're going to focus so exclusively on our breath that all the other stuff that is constantly pulling for our attention. Oh, the thing we got to do for work tomorrow. I said something in a meeting that I wish I didn't or whatever. Right? I don't know. Just a glimpse into my own life. Those things are going to fade into the background. It's very similar if you've ever felt like in the zone or like flow state, right? You're working on something diligently, you lose track of time, forget to eat or whatever. You don't hear the noises in the office. It's the same concept, right? We are going to fill our mind so much with focusing on our breath that the other stuff fades. And as a result, we start to just settle a little bit, right? It's not so busy up there. And we feel a little more peaceful, right? So we're going to do some breathing meditation right now. And it's a 3-step process. Step 1, we're going to choose to do this. Sounds silly, but it's important because sometimes we have meditative experiences without intending to. But we want to train in doing this intentionally. So we're going to make a little promise to ourselves. And all that means is, you're just saying to yourself, I'm going to focus on my breath and my breath exclusively for the next couple of minutes, right? Then we're going to do that. And I'm going to guide you so you won't be on your own. And while we're focusing on breathing, whenever you notice your mind drifting, into what you're going to eat for, dinner later, or like what do you got to do tomorrow, whatever our minds think about, we're going to say not right now to those thoughts. It's not scolding, right? We're saying, not right now, right? Like kind of like that. These thoughts are not intrusive. They're not wrong. They're just thoughts. That's what our mind does. But we'll think about those on our own terms. Mind, right now, we're focusing on breathing. And then step 3 is just bringing your attention back to your breath. All right? So we're going to do that now. And it'll be short. It's only going to be about like 5 minutes or so. Cool? All right. So you can go ahead and get nice and comfy. You do not need to sit on. You can see I'm sitting in a chair. You don't need to sit on the floor. You can lay down if you want. You can do anything you want. It doesn't matter. Just get comfortable. And you can go ahead and close your eyes. And when you're starting a meditation, it can be really helpful to just take a moment and check in with yourself. Actually ask yourself, how am I feeling right now? What is my mind up to? Maybe you're feeling really energetic. Maybe you're feeling very tired after a long day. Happy, sad, it does not matter. We are not doing anything about it. We are just being observers. We are observing our own mind. That's all. This is a technique called mindfulness. Mindfulness is an active awareness of your own thoughts moment to moment so that you can respond in a skillful manner. So take a moment, check in. Having done that, you can now make a little promise to yourself. A little promise to focus single-pointedly, exclusively on your own breath for the next couple of minutes. And then with that firmly in your mind, you can turn your full undivided attention to your own breath. Breathing in, breathing out. Very gently and very naturally. However you normally breathe is perfect. No need to change anything about it. No need to forcefully exhale air. Just breathe very normally in and out. And at some point, often pretty quickly, you may notice that your attention is no longer exclusively on your breath. It's splitting time. Maybe you're also thinking about what do you have to do after this class ends, or something that happened earlier today. Whenever you notice your mind drifting in that way, we can just say not right now to those thoughts. We will get to them later. Actually imagine yourself placing those thoughts to your side. And then guide your focus back to breathing. In and out. Very gently and very naturally. single-pointedly focused on your breath, on each moment of your breath. See if you can follow the journey that the air makes. As you breathe in, can you imagine that air? Watch it as it enters your body. Can you feel that air in your lungs, filling up, the chest expanding? And when you breathe out, can you follow the air? Feel it leave your lungs. Chest contracting. Watch the air as it exits your nose or mouth back into the atmosphere. Where it dissipates. We'll never see that pocket of air again, but it's granted us such amazing energy and benefits. You're developing a moment-to-moment interest in breathing. And with that, we start to find some subtleties about breathing itself, some joys. How wonderful. Breathing in, breathing out. Very gently and very naturally. Keep bringing your attention back whenever you need to. This process of choosing to focus single-pointedly on your own breath, noticing when your attention drifts, and then being able to guide your attention back, that is meditation. You are meditating right now. You are training your mind to become familiar with its peaceful state. You are training your mind to focus on what you want to focus on. And right now, the only thing you want to focus on is breathing in and breathing out, gently, naturally. So for the last few moments, just continue to breathe and just enjoy being here. No need to think or concentrate too much. Just take a little time for yourself. You deserve that. Okay, whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. Well, hello there. So that was a pretty kind of straightforward, traditional breathing meditation. Instructionally, not that complicated. Doesn't mean it's easy. And maybe you notice, you're like, man, well, that's hard for me to keep my attention on my own breath, you know? we'd like to think that we could do that, but when we actually try our mind, we might notice it like kind of balancing a lot. Sometimes when you're just beginning meditating, you can even think like, my mind feels busier when I do this. That's weird. But really what's happening is you're just noticing how busy your mind always is, which is kind of exhausting to think about, your mind bouncing around from idea to idea all day long. But that's what's happening. And so when we ask our mind to do this kind of activity, our mind's like, why are we doing this? I can think about 6 million things at the same time. Why one? Right? Because our mind does what our mind is familiar with. And so we want to train our mind to become familiar with this as a, alternate way of focusing on things. So over time, that will become a lot easier. There's really no trick to becoming good at meditation. It's just like anything else. It just takes practice, right? Familiarity is at the core of all of these things. And that is what we're after here, right? Cool. So that is breathing meditation. And if you're new, definitely recommend, just try that for a little while, right? It doesn't need to be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, whatever, you've heard. It doesn't matter, right? Like the point of this, if we're trying to build up our familiarity with something, is repetition, consistency. And so for your friend, maybe that's 5 minutes. For you, maybe that's 2 minutes. Maybe it's 30 seconds. Doesn't matter, right? Just be honest with yourself about what you can, try to commit to. Maybe on like a daily, ideally, but maybe every other day if you need to start there. And then over time, this is going to become a lot easier for you to settle in, right? Cool. So, for today's topic, we're going to talk about one of my favorite kind of offshoots of meditation. It's one that we've done a bunch of times on this channel because I think it's super practical. It ties nicely in with what we were talking about last week. And this will be my first of at least 2 reminders that for the meditation we're going to do after this little discussion on our topic, it's going to require, if you would like to participate, to have a small glass of water or beverage of choosing, right? Doesn't need to be a lot, a little bit, right? So if you want to go get that right now, you can, or at any time. I will definitely be reminding you again. Okay, so what we did is very traditional seated meditation, right? And that has a lot of great benefits. One of them is that it is a great example of something really important with meditation, and that is that we do not need specific circumstances to do this, right? You do not need to go to a mountaintop to meditate. You do not need to go to the lake. You do not need to, leave your friends behind for 3 months. You do not need perfect silence. We might like that, right? But you do not need that. This is such an important thing to believe, right? And understand, because what you need for this, you already have. Like, you don't need anything. You just got your breath and a little bit of focus, and that's it. You're on your way, right? So if we needed perfect silence, like for example, let's say we needed perfect silence to meditate. Well, meditation would not be that helpful, because I don't know about you, but my life is not very silent, for the most part, right? If we needed to go to a mountaintop, well, that wouldn't be that great either. You might not even be near mountains, right? So the fact that when you do like a traditional seated breathing meditation, the fact that you're able to kind of do this and even relax just a little bit it has such huge like ramifications for like what that means and your ability to do this, right? So traditional seated meditation is really important. It's not for everybody. And even if it is for you, the majority of your day is not that, right? Like the majority of I'm a meditation teacher, and the majority of my day is not meditating, right? Traditionally sitting down or whatever. So if we want to kind of excel at meditation, like make this a part of our life, start to see the benefits from it, one thing that can be really helpful is to start getting creative about how we incorporate meditation, hey Rob, into our life. And this hits on a really huge kind of theme that I will be saying a lot, and I think I always do, is that there is only 3 things, and you know them already, for something to be meditation, right? 1, you choose intentionally to focus on it single-pointedly. 2, you notice when you're no longer focusing on it single-pointedly. 3, you bring your attention back to focusing on it single-pointedly, right? That cadence is meditation. What we are focusing on, or the object of our meditation, can be whatever you want. It does not need to be your breath. And so when we start to think about meditation in this way, it opens up pretty much endless creative ways we can start to incorporate a meditation practice into our day. And this is really good for, people who are really busy, which is like all of us, I guess. Like we all have a lot going on, and the idea of like, oh, I got to dedicate 5 minutes now to meditate every day, right? That might feel daunting, right? But what about if we turned brushing your teeth into meditation? Can be done, right? Because the only thing that matters for something to be in, an intentional meditation practice is 1, intentionally choosing to focus on something, noticing when you're not, bringing your attention back. So today we are going to kind of brainstorm a bunch of different types of ways you can meditate that it's not traditional seated. And this is not an exhaustive list by any means, but you have other things you want to do with your life, and so I will not keep you here forever. So if we don't talk about something, like, and you think of it, you're correct. Like there's no limitation here, right? So if this is interesting to you and you want to try to incorporate some of this into your day, it can be cool to think about, like, well, what's going to work for me? What's a creative thing I can do for me, right? So one very common one is movement, like movement-based, using movement as your meditation object. If anyone here, and I'm sure that there are people do yoga, that's what yoga is. Yoga is meditation on movement, right? So when you're doing yoga and you're, let's say you're in a class, they are not, this is not what they say. They do not say, hey, do these different maneuvers and think about work, right? No, they don't do, right? They're like, think about the maneuvers, right? We're focusing single-pointedly on how our body feels, shifting and moving, right? And then when we catch ourselves not focusing on that, we bring our attention back. It's the same thing. It's meditation, right? Yoga is meditation on movement, right? It's not the only meditation on movement. Simple walking can be a meditation, right? So when you walk down the street, what do you think about? Sometimes we're thinking about work. Sometimes we're thinking about, oh man, like cold. I don't know. But there's so many awesome things that are happening when we're walking. And we can take this opportunity to meditate on them, right? So you can meditate on walking itself. I do yoga and meditation. This is a great beginning for meditation. Yeah. So awesome. Yeah, and it's really like it's such a cool crossover, and I feel like it doesn't get mentioned enough because it's really the same thing, and it's just a different style, it's a different style. And I'm my door about usually when we do that. I don't know. We don't know, but we do it every day. What if we said, okay, every time I park my car in the old garage or on the street and I'm going to walk to my door, I'm going to just think exclusively on how my feet feel as they make contact with the ground. And when I notice myself not thinking about that, I'll just bring my attention back. That's meditation. And it's literally just as good as any other kind, right? So that is an example of how to do like movement. Or you can just like lift your arm up. You can do whatever you want. There's really no limitations, right? Sitting at your desk at work, I'm going to meditate. Look real strange. All of these are teaching us the exact same thing. We're learning to be present. We're learning to choose something to focus on, and we're learning how to direct our mind to kind of let the other stuff fade away a bit, right? Cool. So movement's great. Maybe that resonates with you. But we got a lot of other senses. We got a lot of other things we can do. Taste. That's what we're going to do today. Here's your second reminder. We're going to do a little mindful drinking meditation. So make sure you have like a little bit of water or beverage of your choosing. You want a little wine? Go for it. Doesn't matter to me. Mindful, like taste, using taste as this kind of method of meditation. You eat breakfast every morning, hopefully, right? That's healthy. Let's say you're having a piece of fruit for breakfast. What are you thinking about? Not the piece of fruit. I mean, like maybe for the first bite, right? Like you're like, oh, strawberries, delicious. Right? But then you're starting to think about your day, like other stuff, So what if every time we had breakfast, maybe for the first couple of bites, doesn't have to be the whole meal, we're like, okay, I'm just going to focus 100% on what this food feels like as I'm eating it. Like, how's it feel in my mouth? Like, does it have a smell? Like all those kind of things. We can like really just like hone in on this idea of using like breakfast or like eating something or drinking something. We can use that as our like daily meditation practice. And the cool thing is that you are not adding anything to your schedule. Woohoo! That's great. We're not adding anything new. We're already eating, right? We're already eating. We might as well do something with it. But now it's almost like we're multitasking without getting some sustenance, but also practicing our single pointed concentration, right? Smell, another really good one. You can, when you're walking, like maybe instead of doing like a walking meditation, like smelling like the crispness of the crispness of the air, right? Is there, what does it smell like? Seasons have smells, right? If it just rained, it has like a smell, right? So we can use that as our focal point. And then when we catch ourselves not focusing on it, what do? We bring our attention back, right? Smell of a candle. This one, big candle household here for me. And I always notice that when a candle goes on, instantaneously I go, that smells great. And then I never think of it again, right? So instead of doing that, like I can take a minute to meditate on the smell of the candle, right? And all of this is building up the exact same muscles that we're trying to cultivate here with meditation, right? So the more kind of creative you can get, the more things you can weave into your day, the faster results you're going to actually see, because this is you utilizing your day, right? And the things you're already doing to drive a meditation practice, right? Listening, hearing is another really good one. Music is very interesting, and I like to talk about it because a lot of times people meditate to music, which is great. You can meditate on music, right? The music's playing and you're just listening to what the music sounds like, and that's it. Nothing else matters, and that's meditation, 100%. Weird thing about music is we usually only listen to it when we're doing other stuff, right? At least I feel like I do, like I'm driving and I listen to music, or maybe I'm working and I listen to music, or cleaning and I'm listening to music. I very rarely just listen to music, right? And so that might be a cool thing to try, right? Maybe if you like working with music, and the next time you're going to do that, before you start working, just close your eyes and just listen to the first, few moments of the song, right? What does the singer's voice sound like? What's the instrumentation, right? Get creative. Also, the sound of someone else's voice is kind of cool. You can just kind of like really hone in on someone's voice, and that can be a meditation. Like, it's just an incredible amount of things you can do. Sight, of course, is definitely a great one. We covered this a lot in our last class, so if you weren't here for that, you can go and check that out. We really focused on like how visual can help in meditation, both actually using your eyeballs to look at something and also like imagining something, right? Using your like kind of mind's eye, I guess we would say. So sight, really, really awesome, right? And then my favorite, not to be biased, is like tactile, right? I used the example of brushing your teeth earlier. This is my favorite one. This is the one that got me hooked on this method. Because when I brush my teeth, I am thinking about everything except brushing my teeth. I have never once, until I started doing this, thought of just focus on brushing my teeth. It's like, I don't think anyone does. It's this weird kind of activity that we just do haphazardly, while we do other stuff. So, ideally, brushing our teeth twice a day. Man, if you can turn that into meditation, you're doing it twice a day. And guess what? You really weren't doing anything brushing your teeth. You really weren't thinking about anything anyway, So really maybe focusing on how the bristles feel on your gums, or the sound that it makes, whatever, just something. Focusing on one thing, brushing your teeth. You have turned brushing your teeth into a meditative practice. Congratulations. Showering, another great one, right? Oh, my best thoughts come from the shower. What if we sacrifice that slightly? And then like maybe when we're just like washing our hair or something, we just think about how the shampoo feels on our scalp, right? Just an example. It can be anything. Feel the water dripping on your shoulder, right? All of this is meditation. And I know I sound like a broken record saying that, but it's really important because one of the first things I said today was we have a generic image of what meditation is. We think it is sitting on the floor with our eyes closed, but that is just one of many, many options. So you have to find what works for you, right? And so if you want to try some of these things out, my recommendation is to try one. Don't be like, hey, I'm going to make everything I do in my day a meditation practice. Cause you're going to get burnt out. So pick one thing and we'll try it. And then if it goes well, good. If not, I'll try something else. Right. So this is the kind of creative experimentation that I think really will drive a meditation practice to be something that we do sometimes, to something that's just like a part of us, right? And when we can make it a part of us, that's when our default changes. That's when our familiarity becomes so shifted to like peaceful us, observant us, aware us, that is our default, right? And we've completely changed how our mind works. Right? Cool? Okay. So we're going to do there's like a million names for everything. Mindful drinking. Call it that. We're going to meditate on drinking, right? Here's your last reminder to get a small amount of some digestible liquid, whatever that is, be it water, seltzer, tea, soda, wine, I don't care. Just something. And just have it next to you. All right, so you need a little time to go do that. You can do that. I'll try to ramble for a little bit. So now, when we're doing this, we're going to start very similar to how we did our breathing meditation. We're going to do a little breathing meditation to relax, and then we're going to transition into this activity. When we transition into said activity, I'm going to ask you to like hold the device that is holding your liquid, right? And when you do that, I would like you to open your eyes because I do not want you to spill whatever the beverage of your choosing is all over your expensive equipment. So it is totally okay to open your eyes and like make sure you have this thing. All right. There's been accidents in the past, and so this is a nice public service announcement. Essentially, what we're going to do is we're going to use our senses individually to really hone in on the entire experience of drinking a sip of this liquid, right? You don't have to worry too much about what any of that means. I'll be, guiding through it, but just make sure you have your drink within arm's reach. And if you do, cool, you can go ahead and close your eyes and we'll get started. Just like before, take a moment and check in. How are you feeling right now? We're not comparing it. What happened earlier is done. We're just focusing on now. How do you feel now? What is your mind up to now? And having checked in, you can once again make a promise to yourself to focus single pointedly on your breath for a little while so we can relax a bit. And turn your full undivided attention to your own breath. Breathing in and breathing out gently, naturally. There is no correct way to breathe. Just breathe whatever comes naturally to you. In and out. As you begin to relax a little bit into your seat, whenever you catch your attention drifting, no big deal. We can just say, not right now, to those thoughts. We'll get to them later. And guide your focus back to your breath. Single-pointedly focused on each moment of each breath. In and out. Gently, naturally. It doesn't matter how many times you need to bring your attention back. The goal here is just noticing when you're distracted and bringing your attention back for however long you can. In and out. Gently, naturally. So having taken a few moments to do some breathing meditation, we've done our best to clear out some of the clutter in our mind. And we can use this more clear mind, even if it's only slightly more clear. We can use this more clear mind to start to investigate things. And today we're going to do a mindful drinking exercise where we are going to investigate what it feels like to drink a sip of water. So I would like you to open your eyes if you need to and either pick up the container that is holding the water or just place your hand on it. Hold it. Have your hand touching the container in which the water or beverage is in. What does this container feel like? Is it smooth to the touch? Rough? Can we tell what material it is just by touching it? Can you sense how warm or cold the water is just by touching the container? What does holding this cup of water feel like? Now I'd like you to bring that cup of water up to your nose and just smell the water or beverage. What does it smell like? Does it have a strong aroma or not? Can you sense the temperature of the liquid just by smelling it? What does this drink smell like? Now I'd like you to take a sip, but do not swallow. Just leave this liquid, this drink, in your mouth. What does it feel like? Can you follow it as it effortlessly moves around your teeth and gums? Effortlessly avoiding obstacles, so smooth. Can you sense maybe a change in the temperature of the liquid the longer it sits in your mouth? If it started warm, is it getting cooler? If it started cool, is it getting warmer? How interesting. You can go ahead and swallow that sip. And then finally, this time, I'd like you to take a sip of your drink and swallow it. And I want you to focus on what it feels like to swallow this drink. can you feel the liquid moving from your mouth down to your throat, into your stomach, can you sense a change in the temperature of the water as it progresses throughout your body? And just for the last few moments here, you can choose to take as many sips as you want and just enjoy drinking. There is nothing else to focus on. Just you and that drink. Having a wonderful time together. How interesting. Okay, whenever you're done, you can open your eyes. Hello. Rehydrated? So that's just an example of how you can do this with water, right? It doesn't have to be water. It can be anything. And there's no like right way to go about doing this. The object is just to really focus in on water. And this leads very nicely into what we're going to talk about next week. And that is when we are single-pointedly focused on something, we start to find some really interesting subtleties about the activity or thing we're focusing on. In this case, water, right? Like, what kind of interesting things did you find? I always seem to focus on the temperature for me because I think it's so interesting. Like, oh, it's like constantly changing temperature depending on where it is, right? These are things that are always there. Very interesting, fascinating, subtle joys that are always there. And we drink a lot throughout the day. And wouldn't it be cool if we could like have this really interested experience when we're drinking once in a while? So you can. So hopefully you found that to be interesting or cool or relaxing or whatnot. That's it for today. Really do appreciate you guys being here. Just such a good group. And thank you guys so much. It's been such a fun time every week for the last couple of years here, learning with you guys. So I'm going to put my email. Beatrice, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm going to put my email in the chat right now. It is keith@meditationbreaks.com. Meditationbreaks.com. That is my email. If you have any questions about meditation, maybe you're trying to start your own practice and you got some questions, I'd be more than happy to help. I also teach Lily. Hello. How are you? Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it. If you are interested in doing any private instruction, you're like, man, meditation is the best. I would love to do private instruction. If you would like to, see where you can go with it or whatever, I do one-on-one instruction, and it's really great for focusing on very specific things. Like maybe you're here for anxiety. That's how I got in. We can just really dive into how meditation focuses on helps with anxiety and focus on that. So if that's interesting to you, email me. I do all my stuff virtually, unless you live in the greater Denver area. You ready for sleep? Me too. I'm glad. Thank you guys, and hope to see you all next week. We're going to continue our discussion on kind of getting creative with our meditations and finding some joy. while doing it. Cool? All right. Thank you. See you next week.